Hello, fellow Pops. I'm Dr. F Scott Feil, and I'm bringing you a message from our sponsor at Ice Shaker. My diet's always been a little bit messed up most of my life, and I recently started trying to take back control of my health. And one of the issues my doctor pointed out was that I needed to make an increase in my protein intake. Now, I can't eat chicken breasts all day, every day, so protein shakes and powders have become a big help. Ice Shaker and its built-in removable agitator is an amazing product. They come in a bunch of sizes and colors, and you can even get inscriptions and logos on them. They're stainless steel, double wall insulated, and hold ice for 30 plus hours. If you're interested in purchasing one, you can click on the link in our show notes. Or if you're interested in selling them for your business and making commission, and let's be honest, if you're listening to the Professors of Profit vlogcast and you can consider yourself a pop or a professor of profit, you're likely interested in selling these as a side hustle. You can click on that link in the show notes as well. Or you can reach out to me directly on social media. I'm pretty available there. I love Ice Shaker, and I'm betting you, your patients, and your clients will too. Ice Shaker, let's shake things up. Now let's start the show.
Going. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Professors of Profit vlogcast. I'm your host, Dr. F Scott Feil, and I've got with me today Dr. Bo Babenko. Dr. Bo has been doing some pretty neat things in the world of physical therapy and wellness. We're here today to talk a little bit about how he's added some neat aspects to his business that have kind of helped him really go full time and go all in on it, which I love. Dr. Bo, take it away, man. Introduce yourself to my audience and let's talk a little bit about your business and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and great to be here. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. I'm out here in Superior, Colorado. The path has been varied and kind of all over the place. I got my doctorate in physical therapy in 2008 back in Brooklyn, where I'm from. And I shortly realized the traditional physical therapy setting was not for me for many, many reasons. I'm sure you've gone into in other shows here, so we could certainly dive down that rabbit hole if you wanted. But that took me to fall more into the fitness space. I definitely have always been on the sports side of things. That ultimately led to me finding kind of that CrossFit path. So I got much more into I've always been interested in my own fitness, but to be able to take this doctorate in physical therapy and leverage it to then help people on the fitness side and kind of build that hybrid. That's kind of what's been going on since about 2010, when CrossFit was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I kind of went pretty high in the CrossFit ranks, if you will, between certifications as well as the even competing as an athlete, which helped me gain a lot of experience and kind of putting the pieces together of the whole formula. as a lot of times I think we find even in physical therapy, if you have experience skiing, you might be a better physical therapist for skiers, right? So that tends to be something that really helps. So the CrossFit stuff really brought me into this bigger world of wellness. I leveraged that to work with functional medicine doctors, get some certifications myself to look at hormonal health, precision nutrition, which is a big part of, again, the CrossFit kind of side of things is the beginning of their the mission of CrossFit. It starts with fitness begins with nutrition. It's the base of the pyramid there. So it's something that within physical therapy was not talked about very much. And I do think as a profession, there's a lot of, again, complaints and criticisms we can have, but it's something that for sure I found, you don't have the time if you're in a busy physical therapy setting, but yeah, it's also something that doesn't get taught very much in physical therapy school. So, but it's very much within our scope of practice. The APTA, American Physical Therapy Association, does promote and talk about the concept that we should be talking about nutrition. But, I've been to a lot of these national conferences and I haven't seen a lot of the nutrition side. So it's something I definitely got very passionate about. And was a little frustrated with that a lot of the rest of our profession did not fall in place with that. So that might be more than you bargained for in that intro, but there it is.
No, man, I appreciate it. So most of my nutrition information, I came out as a master's in physical therapy first, and I did not get much nutrition training. It was talked a little bit about in a wellness class, but then once I went into my transitional doctorate, I took a whole class on nutrition and dietary stuff. And a lot of the info nowadays I get is from physical therapists or DPTs who are also RDs. I lean on them pretty heavily for my info because, again, I want to make sure that I'm giving the best possible advice to my patients and stuff like that, especially if I'm teaching stuff to my students, right? So I appreciate them for that. But like you said, it's definitely within our scope of practice. It's definitely one of those things that we learn enough about it. And nowadays, especially, we're learning how important sleep is. We're learning how important staying hydrated is. And then, obviously our diet and nutrition has become such a big pillar for health and wellness. So talk a little bit about the nutrition aspect of your business and how you've kind of focused in on that a little bit as another adjunct to what you're doing for your clients.
Yeah, one of the primary reasons I went down this whole medical version path, going all the way back to high school when I was deciding what I wanted to do with my life, was that seeing the ability to prevent a lot of the diseases that cut people's lives short. My father passed away from a heart attack at 41, which was brought on by environment, by stress, by the change he helped take us from Russia, where I'm very glad we're not there right now as of recording this, and brought us from there. We were political refugees from the communist regime in 1987, and brought us to Brooklyn, New York, where we had to set up a new life. And there was a lot of stress with that. And unfortunately, that led to him drinking a lot and smoking a lot, and that led to a heart attack. And at the age of 41, I saw that was very preventable. And so moving forward, my mission was to I said, looking around, I'm like, a lot of these things that we see, the statistics, the diabetes, the cancers, a lot of it is invariably preventable. And there's plenty to go around of low hanging fruit, pardon the pun, back to nutrition, but things that people should be doing, could be doing every single day that is going to move that needle forward. So it just really impassioned me to include the nutritional side. And it's just the deeper I went into the nutrition thing, I'm sure you're familiar and your listeners are familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect. You're familiar with that. So it's just the more you learn, the more you realize we don't know anything. And there's a great book that I almost recommend to every single person I work with called Food Rules by Michael Pollan. And one of the things they talk about there is the fact that nutrition science today is where surgery was in about 1600. And would you like somebody from 1600 to operate on your knee? Probably not. So the idea that nutrition is very complicated, it's very confusing. Again, being in the fitness space, seeing people do a whole 30 challenge and lose 20 pounds in a month and feel all energized, and then day 31 comes and they go back to their pizza or just less good habits for various reasons because they're not motivated anymore. That was enough motivation for me to say, let me really try to figure this thing out. And a lot of times my goal is work with me for 6 months. And by the end of that 6 months, I want you to have a sustainable thing that you should never be confused. You should never be like, oh, I'm going to try this keto thing because, so-and-so down the street tried it and she lost 20 pounds and she's loving it because it's just not sustainable. So the passion there was to definitely, coming back to the physical therapy profession, help people with injuries too. Because if you're creating inflammation in your body, if you're not putting the right things in to recover, then there's a huge gap there. And again, you can have the best physical therapist in the world, but now you're slowing down your healing time by X amount. So the nutrition piece is part of my 5 pillars of health. That's one of the things. Again, you talk about side hustles, and I'm kind of have all 5 pillars of health as sort of side hustles. Is there's the movement, there's the nutrition side, there's the recovery piece, which now in Colorado, I do a lot of dry needling as a recovery component, but then it's also a chance for me to jump in and do a little bit more talking about these other pillars. And then there's the 2 kind of mental ones. There's the mindset piece as well as connection. And my wife's a sex and relationship therapist, so there's always kind of some things working together when it comes to all that. So the nutrition thing, again, is work with me for 6 months, and you're going to know more about what you need for your health than 98% of doctors or clinicians or, personal trainers probably can help you with, because again, and not to throw RDs under the bus, but I do think there's a lot of things missing in RDs. And again, they can't provide that higher level of truly kind of building those habits. And that's the thing that's missing, that folks think about nutrition, and it's very complicated and it's confusing, and the research is changing all the time. Unless you want to, get a doctorate in it or become an RD, even then, I question what some of those folks, what some of the choices they're making. The more I research and understand it. So yeah, the nutrition thing is definitely a can of worms. As I'm starting to open up, going all these different paths. I find, again, talking about some of these things can be more triggering than religion or politics. So it's something that, again, you gotta, with a lot of these side hustles, back to the theme of your podcast here, I think that at the end of the day, we're trying to find ways to improve people's lives. We're trying to find ways to improve our own lives, our families, provide for them with financial stability. And ultimately, I do think the nutrition thing is if we can find 20 people who really are going to dive in, become fans, trust us, the tribe that Seth Godin talks about a bunch. That's really where it comes down to. If I can really deeply change 20 people's lives, that's much more valuable than being in a busy clinic where even if I make six figures, it feels very surface level from the physical therapy alone. Even if I've helped them through a surgery, that's great. But if I can actually, again, in 6 months, working deeply with somebody, get them to understand that canola oil is probably something they should avoid putting in their body because it might increase their chances of disease. That's something that to me might never get measured. It's hard to track that over the next 20, 30 years that, they stopped putting canola oil in their body. And that might be the thing that prevented them from getting a cancer. And now we've added 10 years of life, but you can't measure that stuff. So that's where I put faith in the system. And again, I'm going to stop myself here because I can keep going.
No, I think that's a bunch of really good points here that you hit on. And I want to talk a little bit about, food is medicine, right? I mean, if we look at it, really, you can utilize food as medication, right? And I like to even go back to a lot of the stuff that Mike Eisenhart talks about. You're hitting on a lot of those key pillars, right? The connection, right? The nutrition, right? The health and wellness and the movement aspect of things. And I think realistically, that's how we make an impact. That's how we change people's lives, right? And Mike's been talking about, population health and really plant-based diets for a long time, right? And I live in Texas. I don't know that I could ever go plant-based completely, but at the same time, I have started.
I want to jump in there too, because again, that's one of those things that gets very convoluted. And again, plant-based. And even if I just did a podcast on my other show, Demand Better podcast, where we talk about something like Game Changers, which I think a lot of people saw and was one of the biggest, I'll call, propaganda pieces for plant-based diets. And the truth is, a lot of the people they highlighted, even as plant-based athletes, eat fish and eggs. Or Tom Brady has been talked about being a plant-based athlete, and he'll talk about having pizza and burgers a couple times a week. So plant-based, again, to me, technically, I consider myself, if you really do the math, I don't go around saying I'm plant-based, but if you're 51% of your diet is plants, that's probably pretty good. So plant-based is one of those other terms that, again, I just want to, it's a pet peeve of mine that it gets called out. And again, there's a lot more in the conversation about health, longevity, even the environment, the ethics of it all, that again gets very convoluted. So yeah, it's a big thing, and I needed to chime in on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, moral of the story, I know I need to eat more plants. That's not a debate for me. I'm all for it. I just do enjoy the occasional steak, especially here in Texas. But
and there's nothing wrong with that, but right, it's got to fit into your bigger picture.
In moderation. It's got to be put there on a regular basis that you can sustain, that makes sense for you and your diet and your outlook and your workout plan. So completely get that. I want to talk a little bit about like you said, kind of all these little side hustles that you've kind of put under one big umbrella now for this full-time gig, which I love. Your business now has all these little pillars that you've created and different streams of revenue, if you will, under one umbrella. Tell us a little bit about the Bo 30 system and your business as a whole and the services that you offer, because I think it's a really great model.
Yeah, I mean, I dove, again, as far away from the insurance model as I could. As soon as I, really was working in that model early in my career, I tried to run as hard and as fast away from dealing with insurance companies as possible. As again, it's just a bunch of headaches. You're working for the insurance company. You're having to justify things that ultimately I think are not the way that we're meant to be working with humans. So the cash-based thing is something that, again, early on, I was lucky enough to be in New York City, where a lot of people have the income, and they were asking me. They're like, hey, can you see me when I get discharged from my insurance? I'm happy to pay you whatever, $100 an hour. At the time was like, what? Like, this is amazing. I got student loans to pay off. I know you talk about that stuff all the time. So it was a natural kind of progression there. And then as I shifted over to the fitness space, that kind of added more layers to that concept of, okay, let's put these pieces together. The way that I think CrossFit helped mold me is at the end of the day, our fitness, and we do have objective measures, obviously, in physical therapy, but if it's very kind of short term, if it's just to get your range of motion back to, let's say shoulder range of motion, it's back to 170 degrees, that's good enough, cool, we can kick you out the door, versus actually looking at, again, what's your long-term health. So the Bo 30 system is, in 30 minutes, I'm pretty confident I can help you feel better, I can help you move better, and get you moving in the right direction. And that helps us put a plan in place for the next 30 days, which is, again, going to be strength and conditioning. It's your home exercise program, but you don't need to come see me, 3 times a week for, if you have an injury, sure, there's places where you're going to need to see me. But for the most part, what I've seen is most folks, they have a back issue, tweak. We can get you out of that in a day or two, right? We can really quickly, should be able to, any competent clinician should be able to move that pretty quickly. And then it's just really more beneficial. I'd rather, and I don't know, this is a fun question, I think, for physical therapists. Would you rather somebody has your attention for 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days, or that you see them in person and get your hands on them, whatever it is, twice a week for the next month? So you only have 8 contact points. So you're doing a lot less altogether time. But what's cost effective? What's more efficient in getting them actually healthier, better, building better habits? So that's where, again, a lot of that comes together. So the next 30 days now sets us up for the next 30 years. And a lot of folks, unfortunately, don't think that way. They don't even think of what we can accomplish in a year versus, even just what we can do in the next 6 weeks. So that's where I've seen, and again, you talk to a lot of the strength and conditioning specialists, the folks that have been around physical therapy for a long time as well, any of these fields, we can accomplish so much more in a longer period of time. And we just have to have the patience. And it's really consistency. If you want to get strong, you got to, the best time to start was 20 years ago, but the next best time to start is today. I get that all the time too from some of my older friends. It's like, oh, I'm 60 years old. Like, I've never touched a barbell. Like, okay, well, today's the day to start, because your body's going to be deteriorating either way. So let's maybe start fighting that. And I make the analogy to over that 30-year concept of a physical retirement plan. So just as, if I'm 38 years old, I know you talk about financial stuff all the time. So if I had $0 in savings as of today, and I just started saving $100 a month, even for the next, 20 years or leading up to when I'm 65 and I can theoretically retire in a non-traditional career, that's going to be better than, again, starting with nothing, right? And not saving between now and then. So when I'm 65, I keep kicking the can down the road. I'm not saving anything, and I'm not taking advantage of compounding interest. I wish I knew this stuff when I was 21 and I could have started putting money away then. But now now's the time to do that. So that's that 30-year plan, and how it applies to our physical health is we got to start keeping your joints healthy. Again, everyone's kind of like, oh, all my 50-year-old friends are having total knee replacements. It's just a normal thing. And, that's one of the biggest things I talk about in my overall messaging is just because it's common does not mean it's normal. And normal is something that we shouldn't even strive for, right? It's if you go to your doctor and they're like, hey, you're within normal limits of whatever your cholesterol numbers, that doesn't mean you're optimal. And again, I think we are doing ourselves a disservice. We only get this one body. So, that's my whole mission, my purpose, and getting people to understand that, if we can get them to change their mindset around the fact that, it's not good enough to just survive. And then when you have a flat tire, fix your flat tire. No, we got to be doing regular oil changes. We got to be doing, regular tire pressure checks. We got to make sure we're staying on top of all these things for our bodies so that we don't end up with a cancer, with a total knee replacement situation where you have bone on bone. And again, that's not the end of the world. If you have bone on bone, that's one of those terms that gets thrown around. But so that's kind of the drive, the passion behind the Bo 30 system is it all starts with 30 minutes, but that's going to take us into the next 30 years.
Yeah, I like that. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of is cash pay sustainable or not, or is that the answer? At the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. Are you happy doing what you do the way that you do it, right? And running your own business. And are you getting people results? I think that's really all that matters at the end of the day, right? I mean, the cash pay isn't for everybody, right? But at the end of the day, there is an audience out there that needs your help, that needs, what services you provide, and they will pay cash for that, So if that's your business model and that's what you want to do and that's what you're happy doing, then by all means do it. Like there's a lot of back and forth right now on the internet and on the social media scene, talking about, well, cash pay therapy is not sustainable and blah, blah, blah. Again, it just doesn't matter. Can you make it work as a business? Can you do what you want to do the way you want to do it and still come out, profitable? And if you're happy doing it, then, I know plenty of cash pay therapists that are doing very well. So if that's something you're interested in and that's something you want to do, by all means, I say push into it and lean into it and make a bigger impact and help people, the way that you want to help them. But Dr. Bo, if you, wouldn't mind, give our audience one tip or so. If they're interested in starting a business or starting their first side gig or side hustle, what's one tip you would give them, one takeaway, one thing you've learned in kind of navigating your own business?
Just having clarity in what you want to offer. Especially if you're starting out, you might not have that, but lean into what you do have, what your skill set is. If you're a new grad, I know plenty of new grads who are maybe 1, 2, 3 years out of school said, I'm gonna try this thing. I think everyone gives the advice of make sure you have a little. I think as physical therapists, you can always go back to doing a travel physical therapist job and finding a staff PT job. And I see that as the loss. I see that as the failure. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world to have that reliable kind of fallback. We say burn the ships when you're going into this deep thing. But the big advice is be very clear on your promise, what the process is. And Jerry Durham, I'll shout him out. He talks about this a lot, again, on the social medias. Almost any physical therapist is going to know who he is. He talks about understanding your patient's life cycle, meaning, understanding where they go from the minute that they look you up to when you're setting up the first appointment, to the first appointment, to what they get after that, to all the way to discharge, whether that is, in my case, it's going to be more like, hey, I want to not necessarily work with you for 30 years, but I want to set you up for the next 30 years. And when we feel comfortable in that sense, discharging you, maybe that is 6 months from now. Maybe I want a 6-month commitment from you to work together. And that's the thing. And again, it's a very different population that you're looking for. And again, the other thing I'd say is it's great to go through, give a second bonus tip here, is it's great to go through all of the different podcasts, books, masterminds that are out there on Cash PT. But I think at the end of the day, you need to do the work yourself. You need to have that foundation. I went through a lot of those things as well. And not that I found them to be a waste of time. You can obviously take some use out of all that stuff, but because I have a pretty different model, I think that, so if one particular person I'm talking to is very good at doing webinars or Facebook ads, that's what they're going to push me towards. So just like with, physical therapists or chiropractors, if they're very good at cracking a back, like no matter what your situation is, they're going to crack your back. They probably don't have the skill set to do something very different. So, that's my big advice is really, really try to make sure you're investing in the resources that are going to hopefully move you the right way. Again, a lot of them sound good. They're very good at marketing, which is what they do. But I think that there's a lot of traps out there. And just like dating, you might have to, kiss a few frogs before you find your prince, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that take. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's your business, right? And it's, you're the one that's forging ahead. So you've got to make sure that you take the knowledge you can gain, get what you can out of it. And then again, at the end of the day, you got to implement. So I appreciate all your time and for coming on here to talk about your business and kind of educate my audience as to a new business model and some things they can think about. Where can people find you if they want to look you up online or contact you or reach out and just see what you're up to these days?
Yeah, my website, not actually in the middle of a relaunch there, is called Fit Care Physio, which is as in fitness, healthcare, and physiotherapy. So fitcarephysio.com. If you care about your fitness, you can avoid the healthcare system. So fitcarephysio.com. My Instagram is a great place to find me, and it's Dr. Bo Babenko, Babenko.
Excellent. We'll drop all those links in the show notes. Bo, always a pleasure talking with you, man. I appreciate you.
You too, my friend. Have a great day.